So it looks like we're losing about 3-4 inches of water a day here. The first day was about 5 inches, second day 3, and then 2. So it's getting less, but so there's probably a hole around the top of the plastic someplace. So we have a regular liner that we bought. We're going to put that in. So we're going to do some steps previous to putting that liner in. One of the steps is going to be moving these rocks up higher on the dam, and then we'll put the new liner over the top of the old plastic. I have an old injury to my back, so a lot of times instead of bending over or getting down on my hands and knees, I'll use some kind of a tool to reach over and pick up things. You'll see later on that I abandoned this technique and just get down on my hands and knees. So I have the pump that I was using a couple years ago, and when it was submerged, it actually, I think, tripped a circuit breaker and shut off, but it seems to be running now, so we'll see how long this works, if at all. We'll see if we can get this out in the deep part without me getting too wet. I might as well water as much of my grass as I can too, and get as much of the pollen off the sides that I can. We want to extend the border a couple more feet past the current one, so I'll get all this pine straw and dead leaves out of the way. I might as well use this water for something, so we'll see if we can clean off the plastic here on the large pond. Now we'll switch over to the garden hose and the shop vac. I apologize for the bad camera angle as I'm emptying the shop vac. Round 2. Trying to rinse some of the dirt off the edge and into the center so I can vacuum it up. Okay, that's a wrap for today. Tomorrow maybe we'll spend some time seeing if we can find any holes in that before we put the new liner down. So in order to get ready to put the new pond liner down, I want to check and see if I can find any holes in here where the water was leaking. And then the second step would be to take this sand on the one side here and pull that off so we can reuse it on top of the new liner. I'm checking the beach area first because that's where the wildlife come in to drink, especially the deer. I'm concerned about their hooves. If they get off of the sand, does it poke a hole in the plastic? This blower makes it easy to clean off some of the remaining debris. Since I want to reuse this sand, I'm getting as much of the debris out of the sand as I can. Since I want to reuse the sand, I want to put this tarp down and save the sand to put back on top after the new liner's down. Using a very old broom with coarse bristles to try to get some of this sand off. Two days later, we're back working on this little pond. We had some rain recently, so we're going to have to pump some of the water out of the pond again, and I'll just pump it over to the big pond. We'll get the pump out of the way, and then we can do some more cleaning. Now we'll try to get the last bit of water out before we put the liner down. So we had this piece of rubber mat that probably was used for camping. So I'm just going to cut the piece off the end there, and I'm going to put that under what's going to become the beach. Try to prevent the deer hooves from puncturing the liner. Okay, I want to move this sand out of the way before I put the new black liner down. I tried pulling it with just grabbing hold of the tarp, but the tarp started to rip, so I need to take some of the weight off and then we can pull the rest. Okay, I'll give it another try. Okay, next step is to get the tarp down here and position it and see how that's going to work. Now we'll go get the liner and bring that down. I'm trying to get as many of the wrinkles out as I can. Okay, the game plan is this is Sunday. We have to have this pretty much established by the end of the day tomorrow, Monday. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this sit here for a little bit, hopefully get as much sun as we can, try to loosen that up. I had it sitting in the sun previous to this, and then probably try to put a foot or two of water in it to get it to form the bottom. And then at least we'll be at a point where it won't blow away and it'll stay put, because starting Wednesday we have a 50% chance of rain Wednesday through Sunday. So I want to have this at least somewhat anchored before that. I think I'm going to plant some more ryegrass around the edge here, so we'll till it up and then put some seed out. Now we'll put down some rye seed, as we're supposed to have some rain in a couple days. So we'll see how this all works out. So before I put water in it, I want to pull this side here up to the top of that drainage pipe, so when I put the rocks on, it'll pull it back down, and I want the top of the plastic to be even to the bottom of the pipe. Now we need to try and get some more of the wrinkles out. Try to get some of this debris out of here before we fill it with water. One last check on all the wrinkles before we start putting some water in it. Okay, we'll go turn the water on, cross our fingers. I don't like the big fold here, but there's nothing else you can do with the shape of this pond. About an hour later, it was full enough that we started putting the rocks back on. So before I put the sand back in here, I want to put a 2-inch ledge at the very end of the plastic to keep the water from going out. So yesterday when we put the sand in, it clouded this up pretty much. So this morning, about 5 hours ago, I put a couple drops of flocculent from my pool in here. See if I can get this to settle. It looks like it's settling a little bit on the far side. So I'm going to put the pump in that we have for this water feature, and run it for 15 or 30 minutes and stir everything up, and then we'll let it sit overnight and see if anything settles out. This particular submersible pump was giving me problems last year, and I think it was shorting out. So I'm trying to put it in just so the impeller's in the water and not the motor part. So try to make sure it's going to work fine for me. So much for keeping the motor part out of the water. Here's the beach where I put all the sand, and of course that stirred up the water. So I'm also going to try to clean the sand before I put it in here. So we'll see how this clears up after settling overnight with the floc in it. So this should be pretty interesting to see if this works or not. I have no idea. So we'll just give it a shot and see. Well, that seems like an awful lot of work for very minimal return. But if you use enough water, it does work. The question is whether it's cost effective to do this or not. Here goes round 2 on a bigger load. Probably be my last, as this is probably not very efficient use of my water and time. But we'll go one more here. I think that's a good place to stop. Good experiment. It actually works, but too much water, too much time. Probably would have been better to dry it, sift it, and then do this, but that's even more work. This pretty much wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. The next videos I will be working around the house and also back up to the lake.